rimasto a guardare sull'orlo della fossa seduto. Avanti ragazzi di Buda, avanti ragazzi di Pes, studenti, commercianti, operai, il sole non sorge più adesso.
Welcome back to another episode of Neuschwabenfunk. Und wie ihr hört, mal wieder in Englisch, denn wir haben wieder prominente Gäste. We have another prominent guest here in our show, and it's this time Abel Bodi from Hungary. Welcome you.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for the invitation, guys.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, and of course, Stefan is on our side.
Yeah, good evening.
Well, we were just ready to start, and Stefan, you brought an awesome article with you. Would you please refer to it?
Well, with this article, I think I'll cut in the memes. We would like to know for first the guy of the Fidesz Party who was caught in Brussels but during an illegal Corona sex party. I think it were like 20 men there. Yeah, it was a gay sex party. Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of ironic because it says he counts as a conserver of traditional values and especially Christian values.
Yeah.
So it was yeah, I mean, maybe it's not good for Orban and for the Fidesz Party, but it was great for the memes, so I like that story.
Yeah, the memes went really crazy from this guy because, back then I didn't know. The rumors, they say that it was well known that he's gay and he goes to these kind of orgies, but actually I didn't know that he is one of them, and he was very sympathetic for me because how he spoke about traditional values and everything was really great, and he was he was founder member of Fidesz, and he was a lawyer or something like that. Yeah, and he was also founder of our new constitution, which now, as the 9th Amendment says, that the mother is a woman and the father is, a man. So yeah, actually he took really big part of the conservative politics in Hungary. And then it turned out, and the biggest problem is the lack of authenticity. When you say something, you say you are Christian, you are right wing, you're conservative, and then police find you in a gay party, which is absolutely no go. Like, seriously, guys, how do we want to win the cultural war with soldiers like this? So actually, that's why I'm really angry, and because why can't Orban's soldiers act how Orban acts? Because nothing comes out about Orban like this. He never goes to a yacht. He never gets into corruption stuff. He never gets into gay orgies and shit like that. So yeah,
isn't that hard,
really
right?
Just huh?
Isn't that hard to don't get in gay orgies?
Yeah, it's or maybe in Bristol it is. I don't know.
For some it is. For some it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I'm really sad, but we must mention that before everything came out, one day before, he claimed that, okay, he resigns. At this point, no one knew what happened. And then after one day, everything came out. But when leftist politicians or something revealed about leftist politicians, they never took the responsibility. They never say that, okay, that's too much, I fall back. But that from one hand, but at the other, it's just like, okay, guys, but what do we expect from leftists? To resign from because of a gay party or something like that? Like, not. So,
well, I think
at least he stepped back from the public and he said that, okay, it's not good. So, yeah, but still, it's a too big win for our enemies.
Yeah, I think also on our side, nobody expects something different from leftist politicians than to participate in gay orgies and etc.
Indeed, yeah.
about just like with this example, is just perhaps also a nutshell of right-wing populist parties in Europe. If we look to the Front National or the Alternative for Germany, we all have this kind of not authentic right-wing politicians who stay out of nothing and are ruling the party, but we don't know about their backgrounds. We don't know if they really support, so to say, our program, our mission for Europe. And you also had some critics about the Fidesz Party and of Orban. It was about 2 years ago on your YouTube channel, which we also link in our description, of course. Is sometimes also with English subtitles, right?
I made English subtitles back then, but now I don't really have the time to make that. But yeah, thanks. Anyway, I still have many critics, but we must mention that Orban really changed in the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, in that way that back then he usually was just really right-wing, or let's say identitarian in rhetorics, but now all the things what they do on the cultural front is pretty much right-wing. It's pretty much still very good example how conservative politics should act with their own country. Like, just really, I will come up many times with this amendment of the constitution about the gender stuff, just to stop these ideals. The problems are still here. That the level of corruption is not on the level I would have it on, and we still open way too many economic gates to the east, in my opinion. But how he tries to collect all the right-wing European leaders, countries like Poland, for example, it's really amazing. And so in this way, and also with mass migration, because back then, for example, 2 years ago, or maybe it's even 3, there was this kind of small gate for migrants that if they bought, how to say that, so if they had enough money, they could come and get in the country, which is not really good. Something like that, not really passports, but permission for settlement. Yeah, it was the name of the permission for settlement. But it's also was cut, and how he fights for our interests in Brussels, or how he bring rules or laws. I mean, that's something which I can really agree with. So yeah, in that way, I wouldn't say that I got closer to Orban, but Orban got closer for me without having a really big ego, But still, what I see from my viewpoint is that now he really realized that we cannot let the leftists for 1 meter or for 1 step, because if you just try to be the good guy for them, just try to be the nice guy for leftists, and maybe I can collect voters or something from this side. No, it's not the way. You have to be really strict in your values. You have to fight for these values and do not care, like honey badger, right? So behave like a honey badger in politics, and that's what he does, and I really like it.
There were also some hopes that the party of Orban, the Fidesz Party, would join the new in the European Parliament, the new coalition of right-wing parties, the Identity and Democrats. ID is called the coalition.
Yeah.
I don't know, identitarian democracy. No, what is the name of
Identity and I don't know the English name. Yeah. Well, I would say that everyone would be happy from our side if he would join, but consider Realpolitik, or how to say it, in English or German. So for the German listeners, it's really important to mention that now Rheinmetall factory will be built in Hungary. There are many other factories which actually belongs to German economy, like Mercedes, Audi, and all these really big ones. And this is a really really strong potential power for lobbying in the EU. You know, that's why Poland and Hungary didn't have to live with the right of the veto, because they could agree with Merkel, and I think it's great to have this potential of political lobbying. And until we are in the European People's Party, this lobby, this power is even stronger than in a smaller faction. I mean, what I see from here is that the point will come when we have to quit from this EPP, but still, now the economical power of Hungary, but we can, you know, it's a really harsh word, but actually it's a blackmailing power. It's quite strong, and it's, you know, it's good because, you know, EPP politicians can say that, oh, ban Hungary or whatever, and then Orban says, okay, then where will you bring your factories, or do you want to pay more taxes or something like that, you know? And then what can they say? They say that, okay, they ban their needs.
Yeah, I just mentioned this because you said we have to have principles in our, so to say, right-wing parties, our parties, but then we have the Fidesz Party in a coalition with our Christ Democrat union, which has absolutely no principles. They're cucking around all the time. They're not really conservative. They're not pro-Christian. They're absolutely left-wing in our country.
Yeah.
We even have such chair guys like Merkel, who's also don't have principles. From that day on, she follows another politic if she wants so. Yeah. And the German party, or the German party of the CDU, is still behind her.
Yeah,
but I
but
got your point, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
about
just
lobbying.
consider the fact that still Merkel is the head of your country, so Orban must have good relations with her. From one hand, from the other is, it's a very strong principle here to have a Christian party, an alliance of Christian parties, and just imagine how would it look for the enemy to say that, oh no, they stepped out from Christian coalition, because Hungarians don't really see that they are leftists, that they are these kind of cucking conservatives. They only see that, okay, now we are in a good alliance, and we have the power to bring through the Hungarian interest in the EU, which is kind of great.
I got your point. Is the popularity of the Fidesz Party and of Orban still at that high, or can you give a percentage?
Yeah, in the last few years, everyone saw that there is no right-wing opposition, which is actually I'm really sad because of that, because there should be one, but we had Jobbik, if you remember, for that. Back then,
what has happened to Jobbik? Yeah, because I thought that would be the right-wing opposition to the Fidesz Party. Actually,
in 2018, they even reached 20%, around 20% on the elections, which is absolutely high. Like a right-wing opposition party reaches 20% against a right-wing government.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's a dream.
Yeah, but then inner fights and battles started to make the Jobbik, fall apart, and there is now this Mihazánk, which calls our country, but they're just 2008 rewind parties, not really a serious one. And and the current Jobbik is, imagine, but forming a coalition with our previous prime minister, and Jobbik was formed against this prime minister, who now they are making the coalition with. So it's not Jobbik. Jobbik means the right one in every sense. Now we always say that it's the left one, because they're pretty much leftist in economical ways, in cultural stuff. So I'm really sad because of that. And it's just party politics, but what we really have to focus on is that the power is not those who have the chairs or the positions. The power is those who owns the culture and owns the narrative of the nation, and that's why metapolitics is really, really important, and not party politics is the important one. And what I see now is that Orban and ideologists near to Orban realized this. So yeah, that's why, for example, they are opening their phalanx, or how to say, you know, they're opening into many other right-wing, or their media is opening toward, for example, us, because they see that, okay, these guys can really get into cultural wars, so it's also their interest in one hand. In the other hand, we can, you know, fight and win our battles on this side. So it's a really complex story. Of course, I'm not saying that GI Hungary became, you know, a Fidesz Youth movement. It's of course not, because I'm still criticizing Fidesz or Orban where I have to. But at the other hand, I see, which was not the thing and not the case 2 years ago, that now they're not oppressing other right-wing voices, but they are, you know, lifting it up, bring it to debate, and okay, let's consider it if it has to. So it's actually really, really good. For example, now I'm writing articles also into Magyar Nemzet, which names Hungarian Nation, which is one of the daily news, printed news, of the conservative sound, let's say. Of course, it's Fidesz owned, but still. Now they allow me to write, you know, articles to this. So it's actually really good that I can bring through identitarian views and new right-wing views.
It's a huge breakthrough for you as GI, yeah?
In this way, thank you. It was really good to hear that. And in the other hand, I feel really bad because I have the Aaron should realize that with cocking, with always forming our sentences what the left would like to hear, is not the way. With this attitude, we will lose everything, seriously everything. So that's why it would be really important to listen for us, to listen for really those voices which has the the attitude and everything, like for example Martin Zeller or these guys. So I really hope that these parties will realize or will turn into the direction where Fidesz turned. So
how is the situation in Hungary? Because in France, our guests there said that there are lots of right-wing youth groups. Are there any others in Hungary besides GI and the youth party of Fidesz and Jobbik, etc.? Are there other groups?
Let's say that Jobbik, Jobbik is we shouldn't bring them here. Fidesz Youth Movement, Fidelitas, is actually just a politician school, or how to say, from time to time they fill up government positions with guys who came from Fidelitas, for example.
Yeah, it's just a party youth, yeah.
Yeah, it's nothing. There are other movements, for mostly youth movements, but not considered as youth movements, just right-wing movements. But those are really far right. This old school skinheads, black shirts and stuff, and being like really far right Nazi and stuff. So yeah, just living this life, and it's like okay, but they are not serious. For example, we made an action in September because leftists occupied the university. After the owner of the university was changed. This is the University of Actors and Films and stuff. And then the government changed the ownership of this and they gave it for a foundation. And then leftists started to occupy the buildings of the university. And first they say, no, it's just an independence fight and stuff like that. And then we climbed up, brought a banner that there won't be 1968. And they had to defend themselves, that they are not having a revolution and stuff. And they even had debates. And then it revealed that, yes, they having a revolution, a cultural revolution. They tried something what happened in Paris back then. And yeah, we really took the narrative, not just we didn't just hit the newspaper. We were leading the narrative for even 2 months now. So that's why I say that there can be other movements, but there will never be as good and as strong as our movement, if I can say that without having a really great ego, because our activists are the best ones in the country, like seriously, and like that's what GI have to have, these kind of activists. Yeah,
we will go on with the GI topic later. We would
Okay.
Firstly, I would go back to the questions just Stefan talked about. You also mentioned in many videos of your YouTube channel that there's a huge Magyar, so Hungarian nationalism, which is very huge and also kind of chauvinistic. And you're also, or one of your main task as GI or as generation identity in Hungary is also to break this kind of to break this chauvinism, or what are you doing with this huge Hungarian nationalism, which is also prefer you as a patriotic or nationalist movement, perhaps? Is this a factor which speaks against you or for you? How you handle this?
It's a really how to say, a complex topic, because in the last years, the fight between the V4 and Brussels brought these nations together, because of the peace treaty of Trianon, we had this huge inner, how to say, chauvinistic attitudes toward the neighboring countries like Slovakia, like Croatia, Serbia, and these. But since since all the countries are standing together against the EU, this fight brought us together, and now this chauvinistic attitude, however, with Ukrainians, because in Ukraine they are really, really attacking Hungarian minorities, but still the whole right-wing scene turned into a much more ethno-pluralistic viewpoint, which is really good. However, we still have the issues with the neighboring countries that they are oppressing Hungarian minorities, which is not really good. They can't use their own language. They can't have a double citizenship with Hungarian, because if they having it, then they lose their primer one, for example, and things like that. But still, what I see now is that many people realize in the country that this is not the way where we have to go. So and really Orban really had a great role in it. Like, he started to push the narrative of the V4 and Central European unity and stuff like that, and also with a very strong nationalist rhetorics. So it's really good what we have now. But still, Hungarians are a very proud nation. We are very proud for our identity, for our heritage, and so it's really, really important for us. And because of that, we're fighting for the last point, like because we had socialism, like Poland back then. But actually, I'm a bit envy for Poles, because they had the Catholic Church to preserve their identity. Here in Hungary, we didn't have the church, but that was a really common sense that, come on guys, you can't just destroy our identity. And we still have this, because we always had to face empires, let's say. Back then, however, I'm really pro Habsburg, but we had many freedom fights against the Austrian Empire, or after that the Russians, the Soviets, now the EU. So it really brings us together, which is actually really great. But we don't have to forget that, however, average Hungarians have this view, but still opposition and leftist parties can get many voters. Because if you just ask a random Hungarian that, do you like that you're Hungarian? They will say, yeah, of course, I'm fucking proud and stuff like that. But on the other hand, you ask, and who will you vote for? For Momentum or other leftists, because Orban is a dictator. And it's like, okay. They don't really consider these party things. It's just a really common sense to have a very nationalistic viewpoint on many things. So it's really different than from the West.
All right. We already talked about the metapolitical aspect, and as you you also spoke about minorities in Europe, and also, of course, the Hungarian minorities in other countries. You also were part of a new campaign, so to say, to save European minorities. Would you just explain what it is and what it's called about? I just see a short video on Instagram, and afterwards I didn't hear anything from it. It's a kind of a petition, right?
Yes, it's a petition that we have to collect more than 1 million signatures, and I don't know how many from other countries. But I would encourage everyone to sign this petition, because it's not just for Hungarian minorities, it's for Tyrolians, for everyone. On the webpage, there are all these minorities. So there is this group with the leadership of László Pesti, who is a really great fighter guy and fought against even socialists back then, before '89. So he is a really leading guy on the right wing, and he started to pick up this campaign. And then he saw our actions, and he said that, okay, this is what they want, like with this activism. So we made this alliance that we bring what we are the best in, like smokes and banners, and with their support, we will help this. Of course, I don't have to mention that ideologically nothing could be closer toward us, because we're not just fighting against many things like they say. The media usually say that we are anti, I don't know, Islam, anti everything, and we are just hating everyone. It's not the case. In this campaign, we could show that no, we are fighting for real Europe, for real European values, for all the ethnic groups, all the cultural groups, let's say ethnocultural groups, what we have for thousands of years. And yeah, that's what it means to be a European, right? And yeah, so we were really happy that we could take part in this action, because the deadline was really close. It seemed that we couldn't make it, but due to Corona, they lengthened this period, so still many countries it's possible to sign the petition. And once it's done, the EU will have to consider to bring through lawsuits against those countries which are not practicing ethnic or cultural freedom for the indigenous minorities.
All right, interesting. So we would go on with the huge topics, so to say. We are really interested about the present of the identitarian movement in the media and the whole present of your movement. So we had seen many actions before Corona, before COVID-19, where you at the university, at mainly just in the capital of Hungary, in Budapest. Do you also have other branches all over the country? Right? Yes, or?
Actually, tomorrow we will go to the southern city of Pécs, where we are establishing a new part of movement. We also have a small group in Szeged, but yes, mostly we're concentrating for Budapest, because Hungary is we have 10 million inhabitants and 2 million are living in Budapest. So actually it's 50% of the country, and it's the most liberal and leftist city. So here we have the biggest issues. So that's why we have the most of the members. Actually, we have like 25 activists, maybe 30, with all the
supporters and so on.
All the lads from the countryside. I would say activists,
okay.
Not the supporters. So these are really who would come to the rooftop, right? And what I always say, that the era of mass movements is done, like it's over. Now we had 8 activists in this action against the leftists on the university, and like we made it. So you don't have to be a movement which has the power of 1,000 people but do nothing, right? Because then it's just for your own I don't know, let's say it's just own well-being, And but it's not the case. you have to be fully into this. Of course, we're not expecting from anyone or for everyone to come onto rooftops. But what we do, what GI Hungary does, is this kind of activism. Because we are the front of the cultural war. And of course we have, for example, news, printed ones, which are called Kommentar here. It's like in Germany, tell me what is ideological newspaper you have, what Kubitschek and the guys make. It's something like that. Yes. So it's the Hungarian Secession. And also I had the opportunity to write an article about the movement in this. So it's really good, but this, is the one point of the cultural war, is the background, like artillery on the front, and we are the trenches, so to say. And yeah, so now GI Hungary, I would say, is one of the, not one of the, but the most serious right-wing movement in the country. That's why it was really hard to organize this podcast, because I had to go to TV debate today, but I had to go on Wednesday. And just for the listeners, don't consider it that I'm speaking from my ego. I just have to, I'm just making.
No.
No, it's I just saying it because just to see how important our movement is now. That's really, they are considering our opinion. They are really taking it seriously. They are now even more and more people recognizes us on the street, and they say that it's very good what you're doing, and we always get positive feedbacks. So yeah, we really grew up in the last 3 years.
Yeah, we just saw that. We see it every
that's what
time,
I can say.
or I see it every time if I look to your Instagram, as you just said, for about 3 hours or more, you were just in a TV interview and another debate on a YouTube channel, on radio and so on.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about there? Are you debating with left wing? Are you talking about your measures, what you want with GI, or what is the comments?
Sometimes it's a debate with leftist, politicians, activists, journalists. Sometimes we just go, and with other right-wingers we are talking about current issues of Hungarian politics, which is actually really good. Yeah, but what I really enjoy are the debates, with the leftist journalists. And this is a very new thing in the Hungarian public scene, because, for example, 2 years, I couldn't imagine a debate between leftists and right-wing, not just GI, between politicians. But now, even Fidesz politicians are going into debates with leftist politicians. That's happening in a smaller scale in the life of GI. It's just amazing.
It's very good. We can just dream of it in German TV or in any other TV, I guess. Perhaps in France is a bit... Yeah, the situation is kind of the same like in Hungary, but in Germany we don't have any clue about something like that. Yeah, we would also like to have it, but there's no really right-winger in the movie. I guess just Björn Höcke 1 or 2 times in 2017 there, but then afterwards nothing. In Austrian TV we had this a bit with Martin Lichtmes and Martin Zerno once in Servus TV, but that's truly amazing to hear it, that there's such a healthy debate culture in your country.
Yes, yeah, and it's a really new thing. Like I wouldn't say it. If he really talk about these a few years ago, I would laugh on that. Like it couldn't happen in Hungary, but now it's happening, and it's really good.
What do you think? Is it also inherited by the communist past, because there were all opinions suppressed, and now that like in the United States, the First Amendment, that everyone has the right to speak, is there a very, very high value for the people? Is it?
No. I would say that back then, Hungarian conservative parties were like cocks, so to say, and they were like, better not to go to debate, because what if we lose, and how will it look like and stuff like that. But then they started to realize that we have the truth. Why should we stay silent? Because if you have the knowledge you can go to debates. You can win those debates, and if you win those debates, you win, the public's opinion and everything, and you can form the narrative as well, and then the cultural war is like moving forward to our favor. So they realized it, and now it's happening, and this is a really good thing.
Very good. As we just talked about the present of the identitarian movement, I would like to ask you about your past as an identitarian activist. What brought you to the identitarian movement?
Actually, back then, which I never hide, I was on I wouldn't say that I was part of a far-right scene. I was just an activist in another movement, but it was not that hard, It was a really far-right movement. We have to mention that. But we were just putting up stickers, and I never even read a book about those ideologies. It was just like, because I grew up in the era where this leftist guy ruled the country, Ferenc Gyurcsány, who shot out eyes of Hungarians. And when you see your own nation's blood on the streets of Budapest, then what will you think? Okay, fuck this. I will go to really right wing, right? So that's why at that time many far right movements were rising. But then you are in the movement, then you realize that this Jewish question is bullshit, you realize that socialism is also bullshit, then you say that, okay, bye guys. And then I wasn't doing politics because I was like, okay, fuck this whole thing. But I really had a vocation to do something for our future, for the nation. Because, if they ask me, Abel, what would you like to do? I would buy a log house in the woods, and I would just hunt all day and care about nothing. But the vocation is so strong, that we are those who we were waiting for. And we have to take it really seriously. That if we are the last generation who can act, and we don't do it, no one will. No one will save us. And then I saw, after 1 or 1.5 years of being a political, I saw that there is this movement is forming in Hungary, and I saw the actions of Defend Europe on the sea, and I was like, okay, because those who started first the movement here were not really understanding the whole identitarian stuff, and then I was like, it's pretty good, right? And then I became the leader of this movement, and in 2017, at the end of 2017, and since that we reached this point. So that's how I got into activism, because, and I would encourage everyone, if you have the vocation for to do something for the country, never get a political like, these parties will do everything or nothing, or what can I do? Well, what? Just follow the examples of all the European movements. Like, take the time, take everything, take the rest and all the things. So yeah, so that's how we got into this.
As you mentioned, the year 2017, it was also the time, if I look through your Instagram channel or your Instagram account, you were also the first time at the Summer University of the Identitarian movement in France. Was it the most experiencing thing you had in the movement, or what was the most good good experience during the time in the generation identity?
Well, I couldn't point one because there were many international actions. Like, I don't know, this summer university was really a turning point for me, because back then I was like, okay, this is a right-wing movement, let's do something. Okay, European unity, but you hear it in many other right-wing movements, like unity and blah blah. But then I went there. I drove there with guys from Graz. It was a hair ride for almost 2,000 kilometers. It was crazy. But then we went there, and I really could experience what GI means. That we fight really shoulder to shoulder, and really the knowledge, the ideologies, the philosophy of this whole movement, it's not just scraping the surface. We have a really deep understanding of metapolitics. We have really deep understanding of ideologies, and that's what really grabbed me. Like, okay, this is the movement I want to be part of. And then If I could pick one, I don't know. For example, the first, when we went to London, it was really great. However, we couldn't make the action itself, but it was it was really fun. Then, we were detained with Martin for 17 hours. I was just for 17 hours, not for 3 days, like Martin. And then the mission in the Alps, it was also, this where I saw this unity. And the marches in Vienna or in Paris are the ones in Paris. I really got used to that I'm in Paris every autumn. And I'm really sad that this year I couldn't go because I really love that city. So, yeah. So it's really a counterculture what we have. I wouldn't say that this is just a political movement or things like that. We have friendships. We have like a real couch surfing stuff. We have comradeship, like true comradeships, and it's something Europe really was needed until GI came to active political stuff. So yeah, I couldn't pick one.
So we just go on. Stefan, you also brought some questions for the ethnicity of Hungarians, right?
Yeah, well, I just would like to ask Abel when he is right here, because I just know, or I think I know, that Hungarians, the only people related to you, are the Finns, and why is it that way, and where do the Hungarian people come from? Because once I heard from a Hungarian guy also, the Hungarians should be
let's say sometimes it's still a debate, but only for those who don't want to take scientific fact, language genetics, which is really, I have to highlight this word, language genetics, which does not mean like language relationships, what, for example, Danes have towards Swedes. It's language genetics. It's just really deep parts of the language. So we would like to think that we are descendants of Huns. Culturally, we are, because we were also a steppe nation, from the Ural and from the east. But genetically, we were Uralians back then, and then later, when we were coming from the Carpathian Basin, we got really huge Turkic influence. Also, our language got Turkic influence. So imagine this Finno-Ugric relationship, like Indo-Europeans were separated, Europeans separated from Indians 500 years later than Finns from Hungarians, and it happened like 3,000 years ago. So we wouldn't understand a Finnish sentence. Our closest, relatives in the Urals, if I really want to hear, I could understand what they say, but not really. Like it happened more than 1,000 years ago, so they're speaking a language which is completely different from Hungarian still, and our genetics is, well, let's say, really, really mixed, because we were coming from the Ural. During the Ukrainian steppes, we also got influenced by other tribes. Then we came into Carpathian Basin. Then we met Slavs. We met a lot of Germans. I also have German relatives, and Austrians as well. Then we had 150 years of Turkish reign. Of course, it had the genetic effects of in our side, but still. So what I would say is that you couldn't say that Hungarian is that, genetically autonomous like Swedes, or like really separated nations, because we are on the borders basically of Europe. But still, for example, settlers, they have really strong genetic relations towards ancient Hungarians. Of course, it can be found in Hungarians now as well, but mostly nowadays in settlers in Transylvania, which is Hungarian was. Just to let me in this irredent thoughts. So, on the other hand, our language is really unique because we don't understand. We don't have it's first of all, it's not Indo-European, so it's for us it's really hard to learn or to get the logic of other languages, and so it's not even like that what I think Estonians have with Finns. Like, it's really not. So we're fucked up. We're alone here. We can't talk to anyone. We're in the middle of a Slavic sea, and it's like, okay, guys. So yeah, genetically, yeah, that's interesting. We were the eastern nest. Well, not an English word, but we were the eastern part of European, how to say, indigenous nations in the Ural. After that, it's Asia, but we are not coming from Asia. We're coming from the Ural. And our language became really, really unique in this sense, which is sometimes it makes me pride. Like, it's a cool thing, but it's also how to say, it's not that good, because we really don't have anyone to share our thoughts with, in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was also kind of a myth. By the way, I'm interested. What do you think about the Pyramids of Bosnia? Do you know that? Because the guy who told me about that, the Hungarian, he also said, first pyramids, like we was kanks, but from Hungarian people. He said so. Yeah, the first pyramids, they were not built in Egypt. They were built in Bosnia by Hungarian people 30,000 years ago. And when I checked it out, I really had to say, okay, this hill, it really looks like a pyramid with green over it, but it's just. Yeah, it's just crazy.
I love these lads. They're mostly really far right, Scythians and stuff like that. They even say that, a few of them say that Hungarians came from the Sirius B or Sirius A star with spacecraft and shit like that. And we are really ancient nation, and even Jesus Christ was Hungarian. And I'm like, okay, guys.
Yeah, but I think that this stuff is always a little bit charming and always a little bit nice. So this superstition and myths about own heritage. I always think it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's also kind of cool.
It's ridiculous, and it gives you easy answers. If you're a retard living in a blockhouse flat, you are just watching shitty YouTube videos about ancient Hungarians, and then you don't speak any other language. Then you think that, oh yeah, we are so unique. We must have been aliens or stuff like that. Even Atlantis was Hungarian, and they're like, oh, okay.
Atlantis was obviously German and Greek, so that's
course that's okay. Yeah, so you also have these darts. Okay.
Well, that was. I think I'm finished with my questions, and we reach minute 48. Max, do you have any questions left?
So then we would absolutely thank you, Abel, that you have joined us today in our episode, and we'd like to hear more. Perhaps another time we will see. Then we will see how Orban will work out, and if he had another politician with gay backgrounds, or we will have, just as we wanted, a true conservative Catholic commander.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, but if you want me to talk about Hungary, I can fill hours with that. So I can give you thousands of contents of Hungarian politics and things like that. So
maybe we
really
do a second.
Thank you.
Maybe we do a second part.
Sure,
well, let's see.
Gladly. And really, thank you for the
but
time.
Just about the Bosnian pyramids.
Yeah, of course. A life is too short for Bosnian pyramids.
Okay, so thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Bye, guys.
Our ego once proud, soon bald and croaking. Our chance once and unreal. 'Cause you try not to see what's there for you to see. You said we didn't bleed enough. Are we bleeding enough for you now? You said we didn't bleed enough. Are we bleeding enough for you now? La 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 la, Uropia, oh Marte. La 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 la, Uropia, oh Marte. We are the snakes lurching in the laurels when you pin medals on thieves. Our cause, our souls, they rose from secret